Welcome into Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast, presented by BetMGM. Brendan Glasheen, joined by Sean Zerillo and BJ Cunningham for Monday, May 13th, Best Bets. You can hear Best Bets episodes around Major League Baseball every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday during the regular season. So please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also find us on the Action Network YouTube page for the video version. 5-star ratings and reviews, they keep rolling in. We're giving out more swag. Today's winner, Frank Dahl, D-A-H-L. Frank, congratulations. You're a winner. Email podcast@actionnetwork.com to claim your prize. We will continue giveaways. So if you have not done a 5-star rating and or review, go do that for a chance for a free 1-year subscription to Action Pro or a chance at some Action Network swag. Before we jump into the slate, the WNBA season begins this week. Our basketball podcast, Buckets, many of you might be familiar, covers the NBA. It has a spinoff show completely focused on the W. Episodes drop every Tuesday and Friday, so if you enjoy watching and consuming, betting the WNBA, go subscribe to Buckets WNBA wherever you get your podcasts. As we also teased at the end of last week, we are beginning our new Payoff Pitch record time tonight. So we are joining you actually on a Sunday evening to get you set for Monday's slate. So episodes will be in your feed by the time you wake up on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays, unless you're up really, really late. But anyway, we'll see how this goes. Let's get into it. So, and the point being is things could change by the time you listen to the podcast, and we'll be sure to remind you as that goes throughout the episode. Pitching changes, and I think Sean's got some thoughts on that as we get into this episode. It's already kind of happening, which is kind of inexcusable because of what he'll reference. I'll let him do it. But Monday, we got 14 games. We'll start, Sean, with a best bet. You are right now. It's great because Zerillo is in the thick of his opening pitch prep. So now we get you the evening before. What do you got for a best bet on Monday, May 13th?
Yeah, getting me before I write the opening pitch article. So maybe the exact sentences won't be regurgitated, or I may even come up with some points here that will end up being in the article. But in terms of Monday's best bet, I actually have 2 money line plays that I've made, and BJ's best bet is my second play. They're both home favorites. So cosign on BJ's play in advance. My best bet I'm giving out is the Brewers minus 145 or better, projected this closer to minus 155. Mitch Keller, BJ's best friend from Des Moines, Iowa. Strikeout minus walk rate has dipped this year by 5.5%. Was at a career high 18.8% last year. He's at 14% for his career, down to 13.3% this season. His velocity is down a tick. He's giving up more hard contact. We've seen that expected ERA rise to 4.6. It was closer to 4.2 last season. So based on the strikeout minus walk rate, the pitch modeling metrics, other indicators, Mitch Keller has basically fallen from a league average pitcher, slightly above average, to a below average pitcher in 2024. Also, really important note, the Pittsburgh Pirates offense, huge splits offensively this season. A big reason why I bet them with Paul Skeens on Saturday, and we could talk about that game a little bit more in a second. But a big reason why I bet them was not because of Skeens. It was their offensive splits against lefties, and in particular against Justin Steele, but in particular against lefties. 30th this season against right-handed pitching, below the Rockies, below everybody. 74 WRC plus for the Pirates against right-handed pitching, 110 against lefties, 11th overall. So 36-point gap between left-handed and right-handed pitching for this team this season, and I would expect it to narrow at some point. But that is a very drastic split that you not see pop up often. And when I run the model, it's not taking 2024 splits solely into account. It's taking a split basically over the past 3 or 4 seasons, averaged out for these players, or projected split for some of these players. So not something that I was intentionally trying to factor into my model. When I was like, why am I showing such a big edge on Skeens here against Justin Steele? I realized the Pirates lefty split. So very interesting point to me. Lastly, because of that Skeens start and the way it played out with the rain delay and the 5th inning with everybody came in and the first pitch hit by pitch and then the 3 consecutive 4-pitch walks and then the 5-pitch walk and then the 2-hour rain delay, craziest inning I think I've seen in a long time. Set us with this barbecue, tweeted out a great minute-by-minute timeline of that inning, which ultimately lasted about 2.5 hours, including the rain delay. But because of that start and because of how that game fell apart, the Pirates had to dig really deep into their bullpen. And now Kyle Nicholas, Aroldis Chapman, David Bednar, all through consecutive days, including Saturday and Sunday. They have a bunch of other guys too who have thrown multiple days in the past 4 or 5 days as well. So this Pittsburgh bullpen is really stretched out. They need Keller to go a little bit deeper into the start. He does have an advantage over Colin Ray in the starting pitching matchup, but the Brewers have a substantial bullpen edge here and have all their key relievers ready to go for Monday. So the Brewers up to about minus 145, projected this closer to minus 155, and I'm going to pre-cosign on BJ's best bet too.
Very good. And I think it's worth your time to go find Zerillo's tweets from the other day. The memes, the meme choices were all-timers. Okay, BJ, what do you got for us for Monday, May 13th?
Yeah, I like the Mariners minus 146 at home. George Kirby versus Brady Singer. Maybe Sean can think of somebody else, but George Kirby has maybe the best command of his entire arsenal than any pitcher in Major League Baseball. I mean, he's got an incredibly low walk rate. He's had one for 2 straight seasons now, about a 1 walk per 9 rate. Last season, he was at 0.9. He's been a little unlucky, 4.1 ERA, 3.3 expected ERA. Kirby's not a guy who has elite velocity or even elite stuff plus numbers, but because of that good command, he's able to move his fastball around the zone, usually lives kind of up in the zone. But since he's throwing a lot of strikes, when he does go outside the zone, he gets a lot of guys to chase because, and oftentimes, Brendan, he's pitching with 2 strikes. So guys are more keen to swing with 2 strikes than they are in a 2-0 count. This season, 40% of the time, he is pitching with 2 strikes in the count. And 43% of the time, he's getting hitters to swing outside the zone. So that is a good example of why Kirby has been so effective. He's pitched much better at home over his career, half a run better in terms of his xFIP in Seattle versus elsewhere. Brady Singer is, he's a negative aggression candidate right now, 2.36 ERA, 4.02 expected ERA. But his stuff plus numbers on his fastball and his sinker are pretty bad. His fastball is at 60, sinkers in the mid-70s. He's got a slider that he throws about 42% of the time, and that does grade out above average by stuff plus numbers. But that pitch is still allowing, a 326 expected weighted on base average. And the Mariners will have significant edge here in the bullpen. The Royals bottom 3 in baseball in both xFIP and pitching plus, while Seattle's number 1 in baseball in pitching plus. So projected the Mariners at minus 172. So I like Kirby and the Mariners at minus 146.
Anything to add, Sean?
No, I made the line closer to minus 160, minus 165. So up to minus 145 is good for me. That's about where I'd set my cutoff price target. It's not far below where the market is now. I got minus 135, but minus 145 or better is a acceptable price target for me. And I guess BJ has it a little bit more aggressively projected.
Let's find out if we're going to fade the public today. Another new layer to this night record is there might be a team that's playing right now as we do this. And the Mets and the Braves are in the 8th inning, tied at 2. And the Braves are getting a ton of cash, ton of bets tomorrow on the money line over the Chicago Cubs. 92% of the bets, 99% of the dollars. Atlanta heads home after this series tonight in New York. They take on the Chicago Cubs. Shota is on the mound tomorrow. Total set at 8. Cubs are plus 120-ish on the money line. Lopez pitching for Atlanta. Is the public right, Zerillo, or is there an edge to maybe hop on Chicago as a dog?
Yeah, I have no interest in betting the money line. I would bet the Braves, if anything. I made it closer to minus 150. So if I got minus 135 in Atlanta, I would probably consider that. Do need to see how the bullpens play out tonight, and that'll factor in when we talk about the underdogs as well today. If the Mets and the Braves end up going 13 innings and the bullpen's empty out, it obviously changes my opinion and my projection on that game. But I do like the total, and I like the under in this matchup. And Shota can't seem to get a start where he has anything going against them, getting the wind in again here, but pitching in Atlanta, 10 miles an hour, 10, 11 miles an hour blowing in from left center field. So on a normal day at Truist Park, I'd probably make this total closer to 8.2. On Monday, I make it closer to 7.3 with that wind blowing in. This also triggered our Action Lab system for wind blowing in, which I bring up constantly, but 54.7% win rate, 5.5% ROI since 2005. It's closer to a 3.3% return since 2019, but I make my projection independently of seeing that wind and weather system, made my projection, put in the bet, double check the weather on Sports Insights or in Action Labs, and sure enough, the wind and weather system had triggered. So very interesting to see that. But as we regularly discuss, the wind is very important for Shota because he has that 49% fly ball rate. And at some point when it is blowing out, when he gets negative conditions at Wrigley Field, he's probably going to get hurt, give up home runs and several starts. So been lucky. 240 BABIP, 91% strand rate. Both of those will move toward league average, but also been elite. 2.3 expected ERA, 3.3 expected FIP. So Shota projects among the best pitchers in baseball, or with that first or second tier of starting pitchers, but he keeps getting the wind blowing in at his back, and it has certainly benefited and suppressed his ERA to date. So going to be getting it again on Monday, like the under 8, and I'd bet that up to about minus 115.
So BJ is not a negative regression candidate, I suppose, with those expected numbers. And the Cubs are 7-0 in Shota's 7 starts, but they are dogs tomorrow. And you are okay with joining the people on Atlanta?
Yeah, projected Atlanta closer to minus 160. So we're seeing the price kind of suppressed. We saw them open around minus 150. You're seeing some minus 145s right out there right now. Like Sean mentioned with Shota, he's got a lot of induced vertical break on his fastball that he likes to get up in the zone, which gets on top of hitters' bats. And so that's why the wind is so crucial to his start. So blowing in, yes, he does have that benefit. But he's also facing one of the best lineups in baseball. And if you look through a lot of his starts, he's faced some good lineups and some bad ones. He pitched 4 innings against the Dodgers and had a decent start there. He had a decent start against the Red Sox as well. But in large part, most of his opponents have been mid to below average offenses. And now he's going to face an absolutely elite one in the Braves, who are top 5 in basically every category that you can name against left-handed pitching. And the Braves, since the start of last season, have a 335 expected weighted on base average on fastballs up in the zone. So they are generally a team that hits the ball pretty well when it gets up in the zone. The Braves, again, we're talking about bullpens here. On Saturday, the Braves used both Iglesias and Jimenez. And as we're recording it, it is the top of the 8th inning, and they just took a 3-2 lead. So if they're going to use Jimenez and Iglesias again, well, they're not going to be available for this game, which obviously hurts them because right now those are their 2 best relievers. So I have not bet the Braves yet because I want to see how the bullpens play out here. But if they use 1 or 2 of those guys, I'm going to try to wait for the price to come down a little bit, maybe closer to the Braves minus 135, and try and play him there. Because, yeah, like Sean said, everything's gone right for Shota. Like, eventually he's going to come back down to earth, and he's not going to strand 91% of the guys that get on base.
Okay, very good. Yeah, that is a new element that we're going to have to figure out how we work that into the show. But it's kind of fun at the same time. And, look, BJ's giving us live play-by-play of the results.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I mean, unfortunately, this is how it is. We have to monitor the bullpens, and sometimes if guys, but your best reliever isn't available, and you get to the 8th inning, and you're like, crap, they have to throw out AJ Minter instead of Rossio Iglesias. Like, this kind of sucks, right? You don't want to be in those positions.
Yep.
But I will mention also the Cubs bullpen has been a little below average this season as well. So the Braves should have an advantage there if they have all their relievers.
So, Zerillo, this factors into our underdog segment. The Mets are back home tomorrow. Christopher Sanchez pitching for Philadelphia. The Phillies, finally human to a degree. They lost today to the Marlins 7-6. And they got Sean Manaea pitching for the Mets, taking on Sanchez. Mets are home dogs tomorrow. You like New York?
Yeah, if the Mets are plus 110 or better, I think I'll bet them again. Bullpen dependent as of Saturday or Sunday night. But as we discussed last week, like, who have the Phillies played this season? They haven't played a team with a 500 record or better since their first series of the season against the Atlanta Braves. And now we're in the middle of May. It's astounding that they've had this soft of a schedule thus far, but they still have the Mets, then they have the Nationals, then they play the Rangers. So they finally get another team above 500, and then they get to play the Rockies and the Giants and then the Cardinals. So, like,
unreal.
Unbelievable schedule over the first 2 months. Unbelievable schedule over the first 2 months of the season. It is truly astounding how soft the schedule has been for the Phillies. But because of how well they've played with their soft schedule, and granted, they're a good team. They took care of business against bad teams. That's what good teams do. I do think they've become maybe a little bit overvalued. And the Mets, to me, also potentially a little bit undervalued over the past week or so with how they're playing to expectations, maybe slightly below expectations. But yeah, I just think it's a spot you're going to find yourself in a lot this year, is betting the Mets at plus money at home against the Phillies or the Braves. So there's no substantial edge. It's pretty much a borderline play at plus 110. I make it closer to about plus 102. And I've upgraded Sanchez. I've downgraded Manaea relative to priors. I've talked about Manaea and the strikeout minus walk rate relative to previous years and how it's declined and the stuff plus and the velocity all down. And Sanchez is a guy I'm really high on in general. So this is just purely a numbers play and I guess a spot play. But yeah, plus 110 or better will probably be my entry point on the Mets.
Very good. Yeah, it looks like they'll, outside of the Mets coming up, they're stretched before the All-Star break, which is just, again, sad that we have to look that far down the line. But you got the Cubs on the road, the Braves on the road, and the Dodgers for 3, all consecutively, 9 games. And then those feisty Oakland Athletics to wrap up the first half. BJ Cunningham.
Yeah.
You're into Oakland for tomorrow.
I am. I think the price is a little high on the Astros here. Spencer Arrighetti, he's got a very interesting profile, to say the least, right now. He's got over a 10 K per 9 rate. Walk per 9 rate is above 5. But the walks have been an issue throughout his entire career, even into the minors. But if you go back to how he's performed in AAA, because we only have 5 starts in terms of a sample size here, he still was above a 5 xFIP in AAA. So he clearly has struggled with his command, even though he's gotten to the majors. And he's facing an Oakland lineup that is actually pretty good against right-handed hitting. Like, they have a 101 weighted runs created plus. Like, that's league average. Like, they're not at the bottom of the table there with the Rockies and the White Sox. And also, they have the 3rd highest walk rate in Major League Baseball against righties. So this is actually a pretty decent matchup for them. Ross Stripling, he's been fine. Like, I know he's got a high ERA, but his expected ERA is closer to 4. That's where he kind of projects out to be over the course of the season. So at plus 150, and we all know the A's have an elite bullpen as well, so it's not like the Astros have an edge there. I don't really see a reason why the Astros should be this high. I projected the A's closer to plus 125, so I like them at plus 150.
Everyone just keeps waiting for the moment when the Astros...
I don't know. Yeah, like Sean said, I don't know if it's coming.
Yeah, we talked about that last week, too.
Yeah.
They'd have to play at a ridiculous pace at this point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they've really fallen behind.
It doesn't get easier. They got the Milwaukee Brewers coming up after this series. The Angels.
The 25% mark now.
Yep.
The quarter pole.
See, they won 3 of 4 after dropping 4 in a row. So we'll see. But the Astros, BJ, it's kind of similar to what Sean said. The price point jumps out as well as the analysis of that bullpen in Oakland and Ross Stripling, the starting pitcher. A couple more. Zerillo, you got a couple totals you want to give out, and then BJ's got a total as well.
Yeah, 3 more totals. The Rangers under 8.5, projected this closer to 8. You could bet 8.5 to minus 110. These are 2 teams who rank in the top 4 per defensive runs saved. They may rank 1 and 2 overall defensively in my model. So rate them very high, producing on-field results defensively. And also the Rangers started Jose Urena today and used their long relievers behind him. They saved their A bullpen for Monday. So bullpen's rested. 2 really strong defensive teams, like the under 8.5 in Texas. Dome should be closed as well. They never opened that roof there. The Dodgers over 7.5. We had some back and forth on the potential starting pitcher here for LA. And I think this is just a travesty for Major League Baseball. Like, all this stuff they've done to get the lineups and information to the sports books and make sure the official bullshit is whatever. Who cares? You've had Yoshinobu Yamamoto as the official starting pitcher per beat writers and on every sports book for 6 hours now, and Gavin Stone is still the official starting pitcher on MLB.com for their probable pitchers. I don't know whose job it is to change that, but if you're going to use that as the hub to tell people who the starting pitchers are for these games and not make people go on Twitter and search Yamamoto, Stone, Dodgers, and look for relevant tweets, what are we doing? It's MLB.com. It's the probable pitchers page. When the news comes out, it needs to be updated. So that's a joke. I don't care that it's Sunday night. I'm working my ass off. Somebody else should be able to update. Give me the access. I'll update it for them. Like, that's silly. Why is that not updated? So anyway, made this total closer to 8, even with Yamamoto pitching. Just a bit too low for San Francisco. Wind blowing out. We've seen Yamamoto throwing that fastball a lot in the middle of the zone, low in the zone, especially to the first batter of the game, and getting ambushed and getting pounced on. So maybe fixes that problem at some point, maybe starts elevating the fastball in the zone a little bit more, but definitely made this total closer to 8. So 7.5 up to about -110 for me there. And then lastly, the Padres under 8.5. This might have moved too far. I made this total closer to 7.8. If you get -116 or better on an under 8.5, I just want to point out, because I've mentioned it a few times, he's been in my opening pitch write-ups. Randy Vasquez for the Padres, 107 stuff plus, 103 location plus, above average slider, sinker, and curveball. I think he has major upside once he figures out the command, and I think he's going to blossom at some point. So he looks like a really good piece and a potential arm we're going to bet on going forward. Don't love betting unders in Dakota Hudson starts, but I do like him a little bit more being out of Coors Field, where that outfield is just a little bit smaller and his outfield can actually track down balls. The Rockies can play some defense. That's like the one thing they do okay. With Brent and Doyle, they can play a little bit of defense, and they rate as a good defensive team in my model, whereas a team like the Angels, horrible defensively. The A's, bad defensively. Like that's what hurts those teams. The Rockies are a bad team who actually plays good defense. So in a park that's not Coors Field, where the outfield isn't, twice the size of a normal major league outfield, and you can actually get to some of these fly balls, I think their defense does help them.
Well said on the MLB.com fiasco.
It's so silly. Like I'm betting games where it says Yamamoto, right, on the sports, but below the little Dodgers team name on the sports book, it says Yamamoto, but then you go to MLB.com and Gavin Stone's face and pictures up there. Like, then you go to Twitter and you see, oh, Gavin Stone, Dave Roberts said 6 hours ago, Gavin Stone's going to move to Tuesday. Yamamoto, like, it's not that hard.
Your overall point being is though, you need to check all the boxes so that you absolutely know that's the case.
Yeah, it would be too easy for me to handicap a game based on the information that I think is accurate and then place a bet thinking the wrong pitcher is starting. Like they could have easily happened. It's happened before, and I've had to cancel out of bets. It very easily could have happened here. I mean, I caught it, still within range, thankfully. Still moves my price target, not a big of an edge as it would be. So yeah, like as a reminder, I like to tell people, like, check who's starting, right? Because sometimes it may be different than what the book is listing. Well, I guess you have to check Twitter too, and double check from the beat writers to make sure certain parties haven't changed.
Yeah, and your local newspaper as well that you get in the mail. Make sure you check that too. Just as a fourth thing,
when you're reading your newspaper in the morning on the bench, listening to Payoff pitch. Yeah, here we go. This is great. This is an experimental podcast, because now this is another thing that we are finding out, because maybe this was all handled by 10 a.m. tomorrow. But in your case, Sean, if you're pumping out content tonight, trying to get ready for overnight, getting ready for tomorrow, these are the things that you're enduring. That we
absolutely, and my model updates automatically too, based on I think Roto Grinders, or it's one of our partner sites. Like I get lineups updated, I get pitchers updated. So when pitchers change, they do swap them for me, but I still have to go on MLB.com to double check sometimes. They don't always get the swaps correctly. Like I don't know when the news came out and when they made the changes. So I do my best, but my best is 99% of the time checking MLB.com and assuming that is accurate. Today it wasn't accurate. So that really pissed me off.
All right. BJ, you got
one. Like,
I hear you. I know it's the home of
where else
the
am I supposed to check? What is the official resource? And I've brought this up in the past too. I think teams should be fined if they announce a starter and he's not like put on the IL and they change him. I think teams should be fined.
It's like, Brendan, it's like going to Twitter to see if McDonald's menu has changed.
Why would you announce a pitcher and then change it? Unless like, like it happens all the time. Like they'll, like with openers, right? That's where it became most common, was like, oh, this guy's starting. Just kidding. This guy's going to open for him instead. But they would announce him and put him like on MLB.com officially. And then our bets would be, listed pitchers, and then we would have to rebet the game. And it's like, why are you announcing somebody if you're not going to start him? I never understood that.
Yeah. Everything, maybe tragedy would be the only thing where you have like a heart.
There's a lot of reasons, like IL, bereavement list, whatever. Like guy got sick, wasn't feeling good today. But like, if you're not sure, like you don't have to announce.
Sure. Right. Just don't announce one.
There's no pressure to announce. Meanwhile, we get to the playoffs and it's like 1 p.m. the day of the game, and they're like holding back who they're starting, right? They've done that too.
Mm-hmm.
At least that you can half understand.
Yeah, 100% understand that. Sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's a good reminder. Good lesson.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, just be cautious if you see two different starting pitchers in two different places. Like, check Twitter probably.
All right, PJ, you got a total you want to give out before we get out of here?
Yeah, Reds, Diamondbacks over 9, even money. Both these starting pitchers, Jordan Montgomery and Graham Ashcraft, have been closer to 4.5 ERA type pitchers in terms of their expected metrics. Jordan Montgomery has been pitching pretty well. His stuff plus numbers are a little below average overall. It's just his fastball and his sinker are just not there. But the big thing is that these two bullpens rank in the bottom half of Major League Baseball in terms of xFIP and pitching plus. In that nature, the Reds are a terrible defensive team as well. Projected this total closer to 9.7. So I like over 9 at even money.
Reds have been a bad defensive team for like a decade.
Forever.
Yeah. And I've written articles in the past showing that teams who are above average or below average offensively like tend to go over or under their win totals. If you're wondering why the Reds have been stuck in a malaise and in the bottom to the middle of their division for a number of years, I think if they just found a way to improve this team defensively, they would probably go. They tried to sign Jeimer. Jeimer Candelario is a really good defender. That was like a move towards that, but they don't have a real center fielder. Yeah, it's a little tough, but at some point, maybe they'll improve defensively, and that's when the team will take off. You see that a lot of times. You know, teams who were, it's how the Rays like first made their name, right? When the Rays went from bottom feeder to competing for a World Series, it was all defense and pitching, and a lot of times that's how teams transform. Is
raising your floor quite a bit.
Yeah,
if you can pitch and play defense,
run prevention.
Okay, I think that's it. Don't forget to download and follow these guys in the free award-winning Action Network app. Leave us a 5-star rating and review as we said at the top of the show. We're still doing some giveaways. Chance at a free 1-year subscription to Action Pro or some Action swag. Also check out the Action Network Discord channel. There is a link to said channel in the episode description, audio and video. Once again, Payoff Pitch coming your way Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays. We will be recording overnight, so going forward, be sure to subscribe because right when that sucker comes out in the middle of the night and you're up, I mean, go ahead, go nuts. But as we said throughout the show, experimenting, figuring it out. That's what good teams do. And we're finding out what works and what might not work. But that's the whole idea here. But we news changes, pitchers change, lineups change, weather changes. So keep all that in mind. So we're going to be back here tomorrow night.
Still the same.
And come here. I mean, not MLB.com. Come to Action Network.
Yeah. Oof. If you want reliable info.
I'm just twisting the knife.
I will say, I caught this because I went to the Action Network app and I saw Yamamoto was pitching, and I mentioned it, and because I had also seen like Sean had that Gavin Stone was on MLB.com, and then we figured it out that it was Yamamoto.
Yep.
So
it's great work, great collaboration. For Sean Zerillo and BJ Cunningham, Brendan Glasheen, we're back at it for more Best Bets on Tuesday. We'll be recording tomorrow night to get you set for the Tuesday slate. Action Network's MLB betting podcast is Payoff Pitch, presented by BetMGM. Best of luck on this Monday, and we'll see you next time.